Hello, my family. It is your girl T. I am back today with another Tea Talk. Many of you know that I did Vlogmas last month, and I'm finally feeling recovered. But part of my Vlogmas series were my Tea Talks videos, where I would basically talk about whatever the fuck I want, whether it was something having to do with lady business type topics like women's reproductive issues and things of that nature, weight loss motivation, whatever. And today we are back on the health, fitness, fat loss type of teas. I've been thinking a lot about the entire concept of intuitive eating because it's something that I've talked about a lot on my channel as something that I was trying to get into rather than tracking macros and having to worry about how many grams of protein I was eating and how many calories and how many this and how many that. And I do feel that I am able to eat intuitively now and still achieve my goals, largely due to years of working on this, as well as my intermittent fasting routine, which I have already discussed. So before anyone asks, I will link that video right here. I actually just had to zoom you guys out, but I noticed that my bun was getting cut off and that kind of thing drives me crazy. So I had to adjust my camera a bit. But anyway, I wanted to talk more today about this entire concept of intuitive eating because it's definitely a buzzword. It is something that I see discussed quite a lot here on YouTube and in general, health and fitness circles on the interwebs. As someone who is at a point where I feel that I am eating intuitively and also not sabotaging myself in terms of reaching my goals with my health and my fitness, there's a big issue with this discussion of intuitive eating that I wanted to address because I feel like no one else is. And that is that eating intuitively, at least the way it is presented, the way it is discussed as this thing that we can all achieve, it's not that straightforward. It's a bit of a misnomer because if you think about it, eating intuitively is eating what you feel like eating. So if you feel like eating from the drive-through every day of your life, you are eating intuitively. Of course, when that term is used, intuitive eating, the idea is that you are intuitively knowing, oh, my body needs more protein. Oh, I'm a little bit deficient on this particular micronutrient, so I'm craving this type of vegetable or whatever. But getting to a point where you're that in tune with your body and what your cravings are actually for, that takes an extraordinarily long amount of time, particularly if you are coming off of the standard American diet. I don't think many people are really addressing the severity of how bad our food system is in this country, as well as education on it. A lot of people don't think about or don't realize or don't even know that so many of the foods in your average grocery stores, at your average restaurant, fast food restaurant, they were made by a guy in a lab coat, not a chef. And when you spend the majority of your life smashing in foods that are made by a scientist, these foods have been engineered to create completely different responses in your body that don't occur in the foods that grow from trees and stuff. These foods were engineered to exploit our weaknesses and our addiction capabilities as human beings. It is natural to like the taste of things that are sweet. It is natural to like the taste of things that are high in fat. That's the way we're made. And that's why there are so many foods out there that create unnatural levels of these types of things to give us unnatural responses to them. And over time, that becomes your norm because that's what you're used to eating. If you're used to eating things out of cardboard packaging and plastic bags, that is what you will intuitively want to eat because you're officially addicted to these foods because that's what they were designed to do. So naturally, when you actually do want to get yourself out of this cycle of negative behavior and eating foods that don't promote health, it would seem that, oh, if I just stop eating these foods, it will be easy for me to just eat more vegetables and lean proteins and I will break the cycle. And for me, that has largely been the case, but I gotta tell you, it has taken years to get past that point. And even now, I'll still occasionally indulge in those foods that I know are no good for me, which really speaks to just how addictive these foods actually are. And that doesn't even touch on how these types of foods can often be cleaved to memory and have emotional attachments and things like that. But I guess what I'm really driving at here is if you are struggling with intuitive eating, it's not your fault. I think the practice of being able to eat intuitively and actually intuitively crave and want to eat things that are actually nourishing and micronutrient rich, it takes a long time. I think it takes far longer than most people acknowledge. There does have to be a bit of a detoxification. And I was loath to even use that term because I know it's a loaded word when it comes to, like detox diets and cleanses and juicing and all that kind of thing. But the amount of crap that's being pumped into probably 90% of the food that is being sold to us is it's alarming. And when you've been eating that way for years, maybe even most or all of your life, you don't know any different, and neither does your body. In my opinion, one of the best ways to ensure long-term success with transitioning to eating intuitively, and I mean long-term as in years and years, because like I'm saying, it takes a long time. Don't expect to be able to eat intuitively in 2 months or even 6 months necessarily. But I do think that it is helpful to investigate looking into an elimination protocol that you actually think is compatible with your preferences, your lifestyle, and just something that you think would be sustainable for you to actually see it through. There are loads out there. I'm sure if you wanted to just do a Google search, you would find tons of different cleanses and detoxes. I, of course, have done the Whole30. I shared that with you guys recently. There's Clean by Dr. Younger. I've done that one years and years ago. I have not revisited it recently, though. These various elimination diets are a great way to help you isolate the foods that have you addicted in the first place and help you to identify what things your body actually needs to thrive. What I found is the dirty little secret of intuitive eating is you have to do it for so long that eventually your body starts to reject those foods that aren't good for you. If I eat a bunch of processed foods and sugar and stuff, if I have those indulgences, which best believe I do every now and then, there is a negative response from my body, and it is like it's Pavlovian at this point. If I think about the stomach aches I'm going to get, the bloating, the fatigue that I'm going to get from these kinds of foods, it definitely deters me from having them way more often than I do now. The intuitive eating part comes in when I've had those foods and I'm feeling poorly, and I actually start craving my kale salad and baked fish because I know that's going to make me feel better. It isn't even necessarily as specific as knowing, oh, I need more protein or I need more of that. It's more, oh, I need food that is actually food. Then and only then, once I've crawled out of the dark place of beignets and alcohol, can I start to get a better sense of which days my body might be craving carbs a little bit more versus proteins or fats and things like that. Because it's only when you're eating pretty doggone clean most of the time that your body is able to really communicate those messages to you, at least in my experience. So that's really it. Those are just some of my thoughts on intuitive eating and why it might not work for you, or why I should say why it might not be working for you right now. Even though I did the Whole30 protocol officially for the first time in October, I eliminated foods like sugar, dairy, grains, soy most of the time from my diet as long as 6 or 7 years ago. Bearing that in mind, I'd say it's only within the past 2 years or so that I honestly feel that I can tune into when I might need a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that. And more to the point, that I'm tuned into, oh, I really feel like shit after eating that garbage food. I don't think I want to do this again. Inevitably, I do. But those instances are fewer and farther between now. And it's also a big part of why I don't do health and fitness challenges on my channel very much anymore. It's because I'm usually eating pretty well and I didn't really need to continue that, gotta get back on the horse, fell off the wagon. At this point, if I do have one of these treat meals or treat foods, the adverse effects that I feel of it afterward are enough for me to get back on the wagon and continue eating clean 90-95% of the time. And that to me is really what intuitive eating means. When you're not kowtowing to cravings and you actually crave the foods that are the kinds of foods that you would normally be eating when you're on a diet. I've never liked that term, on a diet or dieting, because your diet is just what you eat. That's what it means. You can be on a diet of nothing but Filet-O-Fish and Taco Bell. That's a diet. And unfortunately, that is what some people will eat intuitively. Anyway, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and some encouragement for those of you out there who might be trying to transition into intuitive eating, because it's gonna take a long time. That's the dirty little secret of this whole discussion that I feel like no one is talking about. I'm not talking months, I'm talking years. So don't be discouraged. It takes persistence, dedication, and consistency. And that's coming from someone who absolutely does not have it all figured out, but I always like to share my experiences and thoughts with you guys in the hopes that it might help one of you guys along with me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.